See if I can play. Well, good night, man.
I can't get to it.
No sweat, carnal.
That's
Whenever you
out on
get it.
Facebook, but I can't get to Facebook right now.
No sweat, carnal. You good. I found a video right here. Let's see what this is about, man. This is a native. What is it? A native California native's perspective.
When I look at how our history is presented often versus how histories and how our culture is presented in my family, the two don't match up. Because what I see in my family is strength. I see perseverance. I see modern people who live modern lifestyles, have respect for the past, who are trying to make things right.
There has to be a breath of honesty in history, and oftentimes we romanticize history.
Christian history is often just taught from a very
So this is about the mission history. Here we go.
even in public schools.
It just didn't happen that along comes the Spanish and the history of California started there. It was a wilderness, untamed wilderness. The land was under the control of Indian people. The Padres and the Spanish soldiers came from the south to colonize California in 1769 to create a land base that they could call New Spain. They wanted to expand it from what is now Mexico, Baja, to Alta, California, which is now the state of California.
The first four major sites were the harbors of California, of Upper California. So San Diego, Santa Barbara, Monterey, and San Francisco. The Spanish needed to establish those harbors because they were afraid in the late 18th century that the Russians were coming down from Alaska looking for foods to supply their colonies. The Russians did get as far as 100 miles north of San Francisco at what today we call Fort Ross. Back then was Fort Ruski. So they were concerned about the Russians. Sir Francis Drake had been here in the Bay, and he was, if you were the king of Spain, he was a pirate because he
So the real quick, Jaime, as we're playing this video, right? Now no, Salakia, I never, played this video before. I'm just playing it and we're learning as we go, right? You're finding out how the Europeans came over here. It said the Russians were within 100 miles of San Francisco. It's talking about this is a British man. So as I brought it out earlier, right? Deuteronomy 28:49, where a nation shall come against the Lord shall send a nation against thee from afar, from the other end of the earth, right? The Russians were from the other end of the earth. The British are from the other end of the earth. Keep going.
was robbing the Manila galleon ships, making the Queen of England very, very wealthy. But to the King of Spain, he was a pirate. So Spain was concerned about the British in this area. France had control of a great, great portion of Middle America.
See, the French.
Spain is worried about the Emperor Napoleon marching this way to occupy Upper California. The King of Spain was concerned that if these other foreign countries arrived here, they would keep marching south to Mexico City and attack Spain in Mexico City. So the way to defend Mexico was to establish presidios at the four great Upper California harbors.
The Spanish Padres and their force of soldiers came here and disrupted the lives of the native Californians.
See, they came and disrupted the lives of the indigenous people, man. Which
they were looking for large populations of natives in their various communities so that they could immediately have a large labor force established.
Come enslave slaves.
And the Spanish method for establishing a presidio was to take the native peoples of an area, teach them how to build Spanish style, and then have them build and people these new areas in the Spanish way. The Spanish method for doing this was to send the padres, the priest, because part of the Spanish philosophy was to take the people you find in all these new places, new to the Spanish, not to the natives, in these places, and change them into good Spaniards.
Change them into good Spaniards. Now, I wonder how they did that, Jaime. That's my question. How do you think the conquistadors, these Spanish friars, changed indigenous people into good Spaniards? Let's see if this they'll say.
The process of changing them was to begin with changing them into good Christians, into good Catholics.
So making them become Christians and Catholics.
So the instruments of change, not only of the religion, but of language, of culture, of lifestyle.
So take their culture away, take their identity away.
Religion, everything about the native peoples. The people who were to do the changing. The job task was the fathers, the padres. So the task was to bring native peoples into missions, teach them how to build a mission, and then they would be the workers that would go over and build the presidio.
It was a commercial venture. The natives here were the labor force, and they weren't even the paid labor force.
We're slaves.
Indentured servitude. They had to work in the fields. Daily life for Indians in the mission system was deplorable. Being dragged.
So now he's telling you how they were changed into good Spaniards.
From your own village, where you lived a life of peace, usually, to being a slave laborer in a mission context where you were separated from your family. The men were in one dorm.
So let me say this, man. And for Negro only Israelites, Hyman, who try to say that indigenous people never went in slavery, right? This is the proof of the slavery that they suffered.
Women were in another dorm, and the children were separated from the women. And a lot of sexual abuse, a lot of physical abuse occurred.
So he just said a lot of sexual abuse and a lot of physical abuse. Let me there's one more curse I wanted to bring out, right? Let me go back to Deuteronomy 28. If you could, Jaime, get to me Deuteronomy 28. Let's go to the entire chapter real quick. I think it's where it says your sons and daughters shall be taken from you. Here it is. But the curses don't apply to indigenous people, right? That's what the Negro onlys like to say. Go to Deuteronomy chapter 28, verse 32, carnal. You got it?
Got it. The book of Deuteronomy, chapter 28, verse 32. Thy sons and thy daughters shall be given unto another people, and thine eyes shall not, and thine eyes shall look and fail with longing for them all the day long, and there shall be no might in thine hand. Verse 33.
It says, thy sons and thy daughters shall be given unto another people, and thine eyes shall look. They were separated. As you hear the indigenous man talking about how they were separated, right? We'll rewind a little bit back. We're going to close it out soon, carnal.
They were raped by and a lot of sexual abuse, a lot of physical abuse. And we're in one dorm. A life of peace, usually.
To,
being a slave laborer in a mission context where you were separated from your family. The men were in one dorm, the women were in another dorm, and the children were separated from the women.
See, they had their children separated.
A lot of sexual abuse, a lot of physical abuse occurred. They were raped by the soldiers. If you didn't work the way they wanted you to work, you were beaten severely. There was outright killing, but I think the biggest crippling effect of the Spanish mission on native people in California were the diseases that
The
were
diseases. Good night.
California by the soldiers and the padres. And
if you could, carnal, there's another scripture right there, right?
Huh.
Diseases. We overlooked that one. The pestilences. Let's see if I can find it. And here we go. Read Deuteronomy chapter 28, verse 61.
The book of Deuteronomy, chapter 28, verse 61. Also, every sickness and every plague which is not written in the book of this law, them will the Lord bring upon thee until thou be destroyed.
Until thou be destroyed. Now, let's go back to that video.
things like diphtheria, things like influenza, things like smallpox, and other diseases for which the native people had no immunity. If you took ill very seriously, they didn't necessarily try to heal you. They gave up on you. You had to die. There are a lot of people buried around these missions. A lot of children buried around the missions. And so we lost hundreds of thousands of native people to diseases. It was a total destruction of their traditional way of life.
If we're presenting mission history from an aspect of social justice, of doing the right thing, of making sure that we're trying to be fair and be honest and accurate, then it does good for everyone. Not just us, but also letting the truth out and letting people know the history of our mission and how it's directly affected to the history of California.
So that's who brought this out, right? So that's heavy. You know what I mean?
Safer here.
You know what I mean? That's what you're really celebrating when you partake in Ash Wednesday. That's what you're celebrating when you go to mass every Sunday. When you become a devoted Catholic, when you become a devoted Christian, you're helping them, achieve their mission. The Spaniards, the conquistadors, that was their whole plan. As you heard what he said, you're a good, what is it? A good Spaniard, right? And is that what they said? You're a conquered race. That's what you become when you celebrate Ash Wednesday. Ash Wednesday is not indigenous culture. You didn't hear the indigenous brother in the video say that we celebrated Ash Wednesday or any other aspect of the Catholic Church, before the Spaniards arrived. This is a foreign, colonial practice. You know what I mean? This is of the colonizer. You know what I mean? So that's what Ash Wednesday is. That's what Catholicism is, man. It's a curse in the Bible, man. And you heard all the diseases, all the robbing, the raping, the torturing, the enslavement. That's what all that represents, man.
Sir, if I may.
Go ahead, Karnal.
There's a video